What was the stealthiest nut you've ever busted?
I couldn't nut because they were monitoring my heart in the hospital. When I tried to jack off, the nurse called to see if everything was okay, loudly crying.
Took the last Brazil nut out of the bowl at Thanksgiving when one was a kid. My aunts and uncles probably thought I was cracking open an almond or a walnut. Little did they know I had that sweet, hard-shelled goodness all to myself.
It was in the trunk of a Volkswagen while her dad was driving us to see Toy Story.
When you've had to share a room with your sibling most of your life, every nut is a stealth nut.
Was wearing a heart holter one time, and had to rub one out. One of those wear for 2 weeks 24/7. Figured there's no way some call center is actually real-time monitoring this. Sure enough, phone rang, "Are you okay? What are you doing?" I was shocked.
When me and my parents shared a hotel room when I was about 13. My dad's snoring was loud enough to cover any noise made hee-hee.
12-year-old me found a pic of Liz Taylor in a newspaper showing her awesome cleavage, 1981. I cut it out and stuffed in my comic book. Fast forward to a family road trip weeks later. I made my parents make my sister sit up front so I could take a nap in the backseat. I rubbed my boner on the seat looking at Liz Taylor's cleavage while my whole family was cramped into the front bench seat, Chevy Impala.
My girlfriend wanted to have sex in a mansion castle that had been converted into a museum. You pay for entry and then just kind of roam around. Parts of the building had been converted to some kind of public institution decades before, so there were a lot of little rooms and closets. So we scouted around to get a sense of where other people were at and would be heading, and then banged out a quickie in a closet at a dead end off the beaten path. We knew we only had a few minutes of privacy between two sets of other guests, the one ahead of us and the one behind, and knew that someone could deviate from the normal flow and catch us. It was kind of hot but also equally stressful. We were both straining to listen for the sounds of approaching people and a little distracted. But goddammit, I busted that stealthy nut. We even took a cute, and not at all X-rated, photo for her Instagram on the front steps afterwards.
Me, RN, in your closet.
The back of a station wagon my grandparents were driving. My brother and I were heading to space camp and my grandfather was driving. I was shooting ropes under a blanket. Good times.
When my crush was over, under a blanket. Next to him. Bruh.
I once managed to nut fully clothed by rubbing my end with 2 fingers through my pants.
When I was younger, in a hotel bed shared with my nan. Should be noted that she was asleep, and to this day I cringe incredibly hard whenever I remember it. She woke up concerned and asked me if I was cold because I was shaking so much. Pain.
Back in high school in the cafeteria, my GF at the time was giving me a handy in the pants. It was great till, bam, knew it was coming. Pulled her hand out trying to stop the inevitable. Then I jizzed in my pants.
On top bunk with my sister underneath and my parents on the opposite side of the caravan.
Pistachios. They are pretty hard to see when shelled.
In the storeroom of my first job where any of 4 other staff members could come in at any time. I guess I was 14 or so, delivering medications and stocking shelves at a chemist. Jizzed all over the floor, and 1 minute later my hot 20-something supervisor walked through it to see what I was up to. Lol, she never noticed a thing, smiley face. My non-stealthiest nut still embarrasses me that I actually did it. I've always been a terrible sleeper. I went for a sleep study when I was 17. I literally could not sleep all night, and I had heard that nutting is supposed to help. So I literally have all these wires strapped all over me to monitor muscle movement and brainwaves and a camera watching me, and I decide to do a stealthy and uncomfortable wank. There is absolutely no way they didn't know. I can't believe I actually did that. And it doesn't actually help me sleep whatsoever. I literally fell asleep at 5:30 in the morning and they woke me up at 6 a.m. as they needed the bed. Test was inconclusive.
Blowjob on a plane during a red-eye flight.
I, 46M, was 14 and was probably knocking one out every day back then. We went on a family holiday to the south of France and were staying in a small caravan. I somehow managed to last a week of seeing stunning topless French girls, women on the beach, before my nuts couldn't take it anymore. I crept into the bathroom in the middle of the night and burped the worm. To this day it's still one of my most satisfying orgasms.
Orgasmed in my sleep once, never woke my husband, wasn't even touching myself, just woke up about a second before reaching climax with no physical stimulation. Weird experience, my body stealthed me.
In class. Multiple times, especially during tests. I used to get really frustrated when I couldn't figure out the answers on my tests. As a horny teenager, I figured out how to release my frustrations during testing. Cross your legs and squeeze in various ways and boom, soon you're stress-free and no one is the wiser. It didn't really help that I also had fantasies about my teachers finding out about it and making me do it in front of the class. Or them teaching a sex ed to the rest of the class by putting me on the table at the front and beat me. Eventually I started doing it so often that I was getting paranoid that people were figuring it out, so it came to a stop. I think the worst part was that none of my teachers were actually all that attractive, so I kind of grossed myself out about fantasizing about them in that way. I can still achieve orgasm in this fashion, but it's not the easiest anymore and doesn't feel as great as grabbing my vibrator.
Boyfriend and I gave each other simultaneous handjobs on a plane under the blanket we were sharing while sitting in our seats.
Digging out the old throwaway for obvious reasons. So I used to have this really awesome balcony where you could not be seen from any direction, top of the building, tree cover. Would routinely go out there late at night with my computer and bust an outdoor nut while I smoked a blunt and maybe had a drink or two. The breeze, the fresh air. It was truly living.
When I was younger, I used to hump/nut in my pillow while my parents or sister were asleep in the same room.
Jacked off in the security patrol vehicle while checking ID.
Basic training. Need I say more?
Either in public bathroom or psychiatric hospital.
I was laying in bed and just as I hit the climax my dad came in and hopped onto my bed and stayed there for a solid few minutes. Then when he left I had a huge mess to clean up.
Recently, I went to a drive-in movie theater with my cousin and his family. They were showing two movies, Mortal Kombat and Kong vs. Godzilla, which I've already seen. It was very cold that night, so after the first movie, we all went inside of the car, except my cousin, who is a total Chad BTW. For some reason, I was feeling very horny, so I said I was tired and wanted to lay down, and jacked off in the very back of the car while my aunt and uncle were in the front watching the movie.
At the college dorm, bottom bunk. Was starting to get ready in the middle of the night, being all quiet. Then I realized the guy in the top bunk was jacking it. Whatever, he ain't interrupting my good time. I bust and go back to sleep with the sound of him going, ooh. Ooh ooh oh HHH, in the background.
We got stealth nuts now? I don't remember seeing that in my inventory.
1. Centribation in 9th grade math class. Yes, guys can do it too, and yes, it was messy too. Masturbation in a dorm room with 3 other guys asleep around me. 3. Handjob by sew under a blanket on the couch while the family watched TV.
2 of my friends had a competition in high school to see who could jack off fastest in each class. A small group of us had 5 classes together. No clue who won and I didn't shake hands with either of them the entire quarter.
I was in church camp, and I am female and they were a big no masturbation place, especially if you were thinking about someone. I nut in the tent with a couple girls around me. Yikes. I think I was like 14?
Throwaway, because obvious reasons horny 9th grader. Towards the end of the year so it's really hot. Teacher is at the front of the class with all the lights off and showing microscope slides, biology class. I was in the back corner. One arm went outside of the sweatshirt like normal, one arm went inside. Jeans were undone but covered with sweatshirt. Rubbed one out there, as absolute stealthy as I could, in a class with 30 people in holy beep. That was not a good move and could have ended too badly and was such a poor decision, but honey 14-year-old me.
A really hard walnut when my parents were sleeping.
On you mother's face without everyone noticing.
May your day be filled with joy and happiness. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more quality content every day.